this is Dawn Eden from Videowave, and I'm very happy to be upstairs in the second string dressing room at the Irving Plaza. Actually, I should say the opening act, because I'm with the opening act dressing room, because I'm with a first string band, Sloan, who are opening for Guided by Voices tonight. I'm here with Jay Ferguson and Andrew Scott, all the way from Nova Scotia.
Hello.
Hello. Now I have to ask you, have you tried the nachos and salsa here yet? The nachos and salsa that they've so graciously provided you.
Oh no, they'll remain that way until right before the show. That's when we break out the nachos and salsa. 10 minutes before we go on stage.
Rider to the food bank, directly to the food bank.
That's true.
The rock and roll waste is getting out of hand. 2000 it's going to change.
Now you toured Japan recently. What kinds of spreads did they have for you there in your dressing room?
They have really mini sandwiches that are about the size of a harmonica. And what else do they have? Popcorn?
Lots of egg salad.
Egg salad.
Lots of tuna.
No sushi?
No sushi yet. No, none of the clubs.
No sake or?
No, you have to go get that yourself.
No geisha? No, I'm sorry.
No, well, you have to get that yourself too. That's right, that was our second time going there, and it was the same rider both times. But it was very exciting nonetheless.
Now your new album is called Between the Bridges, and it's on your own Murder Records, and it's really a sign of stamina for you guys that you've just continued to do what you were doing before being on a major label, because your last album was on the Enclave, which went belly up when EMI.
That's right.
Ditched all its and
two albums ago, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Two albums.
Our last album was on our own label as well.
Right. Well, that was the live.
The live one, and then prior to that, Navy Blues, and then the one before that, One Chord to Another, was released through the Enclave down in here.
Right. And one point I wanna impress on people is the fact that you are a band that have had like 6 gold records in Canada. You've been doing this for a while, even though you look baby-faced, and you're doing it for the love of it, as opposed to so many alternative bands nowadays that get on a major label, think that's it, and then when the label breaks up, they break up. It's not like that with you.
No, I mean, I guess we do. It's definitely fun making records, but I think part of the fun is the fact that we can control our own career, and the fact that we own our own records, and that we can make our own records at our own pace. I mean, I think anybody who owns their own business probably enjoys that luxury and sense of feeling like you're doing something for yourself or doing something with your life a little bit, as opposed to being on a major label where there's someone, it's all, market sway that, predicts when your album is going to come out, and there's someone else telling you how it should sound, or they have a different idea how it should be promoted and everything. But doing it ourselves and putting out records when we want and making them how we want to make them, it's like owning your own business, and that's part of the fun as well as the love of the music as well.
It must make you guys sort of thankful to your younger selves for having thought of having your own label, because that's still, even in this enlightened day and age, an unusual thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the exciting part of just when we first started out, and we recorded our first EP called Peppermint, and we just, starting our own label was basically just like, let's make up a name and just stamp it on the back of this thing and put it out. Little did we know that a couple of years down the road we'd actually have an operating little label that we just put out mainly records of our friends' bands or just bands from our area in Nova Scotia.
And some bands that have done quite well too.
Some of them had a bit of a life. Most of them have died now. Most of them are gone, just kind of broken up or gone to school.
But what were some of the bands? I'm thinking of one with a female singer.
It was Jail.
J-A-L-E. Yeah.
Yeah. They made a couple albums, then they made another record under a different name because one of them left. And there's another band that was called Eric's Trip, who are from New Brunswick, which is just above Nova Scotia, and they had a life on Sub Pop Records, but they broke up and splintered into different various bands. But
it's kind of neat because on the one hand you've got your own career as a pop band, and then you're sort of you've got a mini empire.
Yes,
or at
it's
least
a
you
mini.
have had. Although now right now you're concentrating more on your own
It's a
releases.
mini liability, more or less now. It's just a bunch of boxes of unsold cassettes and 7 inches in our practice space, taking up valuable space.
We used to be feudal lords, but now we're feudal lads.
Feudal with a EUDAL.
Yes, exactly.
And another thing that I love about you guys, particularly with Between the Bridges, is that a couple of years ago, or maybe actually about 3 years ago, there was a lot of hoopla over the quote power pop revival, and I confess to being a big part of that hoopla myself, touting it. But now a lot of the bands that were playing that kind of music have broken up because there's not as much media attention on the music as there's still, as there was before. But yet, hearing your new album, you're still playing the same kind of like Raspberries Big Star influenced music that you always have been. Only you're doing it better now, and I really like it that you're not paying attention to whether it's cool or not cool.
Yeah, I think we just make records that we want to make, and I think I don't know if we really pay attention. I definitely in Canada, I never noticed some sort of resurgence in that kind of music. Like I think a lot of our music is sort of rock based, so it gets played on radio and everything. But yeah, I don't know. We just make records that hopefully we like, but next time we might change completely.
Well, you've already done a variety of styles. I mean, you started out as a much darker kind of band, almost gothic in a way.
Gothic, really?
Almost. I mean, musically. I mean, I could hear more like Joy Division in what you were doing, like starting out.
Well, that's all right with me. I love Joy Division, but I never would have thought that we'd actually.
You were noisier.
Yeah, and we weren't. I guess we weren't as depressing as Joy Division or something, but. Yeah, I think our styles have changed somewhat over the years. Our records, I think they're all different, but identifiable as us.
So, I mean, if you were to change, I can't imagine that many styles that you haven't done. I mean, maybe you guys could start doing bluegrass or something.
I don't think that'll happen.
Or Chinese opera.
Maybe that'll happen.
Japanese opera.
It seems I have to have something substantial here so that people don't think this is just another superficial video thing. So with Between the Bridges, it seems like you're trying to see just how perfect you can get in terms of song structure and that sort of thing. That was my impression just from what I've heard, that on the one hand you don't want to sound too, oh no, come in, it's all right. On the one hand you don't want to sound too polished or slick, and on the other hand you want to sound real turn on a dime in terms of the chord changes and melodies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, we always try and perfect our craft more and more when we were making records. I mean, you can only hope that every successive record you consider better than the last, I guess. And if you thought your new record was worse than your last one, then I'd say you're taking a step backwards. But I think we probably all agree that it's just the experience of us making the records as opposed to the listener, I think, is completely different, as well as seeing us play or hearing from us what we thought about how we played. It's just it's a different thing.
Subjective experience.
Yeah, we're involved in the creation of these things, so we get a lot of different kind of feelings or whatever out of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the fun of making records. It's just you always want to try new things.
Yeah, well, it comes from the guts rather than from you thinking, what do people want to hear? You're thinking,
Yeah.
what would you want to hear?
Exactly. And what's on the radio and what's on MTV or Much Music is an example of what not to do, basically.
That's great. That's great. I'd like to end by asking each of you, putting aside the idea of like what kind of music you play. I mean, what music have you been like just personally listening to lately?
Let me see. I think there's. I like bands like Whenever someone asks me this, I always draw a blank completely. But I like things like Bell and Sebastian. Do you know that band from Scotland? And Stereolab. And
but I mean, whatever you've been listening to lately. I mean, if you really just put on a CD of Beethoven's Fourth and just tell me that.
No, I don't. I don't listen to any classical music. Although I think of like, oh, you know, I should probably try and listen to something, but I never get.
A little bit lately.
Is that right?
Really?
Fiona bought a bunch of these CDs, my girlfriend, and I'm kind of into it. She got a Chopin one and a Bach one. It's pretty nice.
Really?
Chopin's
like,
piano pieces?
Yeah, yeah. And just listening to a band like the Moles or something, it's basically crazy classical music, like Richard Davies. Yeah, this Richard Davies band, his old band from Australia. But yeah, I don't really listen to it very seriously. It's background music.
So what have you been listening to lately?
I've been listening to a lot of Kinks.
Which Kinks?
Arthur, Lola versus Power Man, Village Green, and anything I can get my hands on.
I like Arthur. I think Arthur's my favorite.
I think Arthur's really great too, and I've owned it for a long time on vinyl, and it was so scratched I could never listen to it. And then when we came back from Australia, you had it, and I borrowed it and listened to it one day.
A lot of that sounds very timeless. I mean, a song like Nothing to Say doesn't sound dated at all.
Ah, fuck, Arthur I would love to hear that on the radio right now. Any song from that record.
Well, I just want to tell the viewers that if that gives them the idea that, gee, maybe I'd like this band because they like Arthur, you're right. So I've been.
Not all of us like the Kinks, by the way.
Andrew and I do. Chris thinks it's like sort of tally-ho, pip-pip music, like basically British sort of tea garden music. And Patrick, I don't think he knows. He never heard of them. So that's one thing about our band is that it's made up of 4 individuals, if I can just put the cap on the end here, that and everybody brings their own influences to it, and that's what it's all about.
Well, I personally am very happy that I've segregated the Kinks fans for this interview.
Right.
I've been speaking with Andrew Scott and with Jay Ferguson of Sloan, whose new album is called Between the Bridges on Murder Records, and this is Dawn Eden for Videowave. Thank you both so much.
Thanks.